When before I actually decided to say okay to them, I was really worried and I kept thinking, oh no, what should I do? I mean, I know they are eager to learn and they really wanted it so badly to start so badly. So I was like, oh, okay, maybe I should just go ahead. So when I was in the class, I literally forgot about everything.
Welcome to Season 2 of the Paper Talk podcast, where we have candid conversations with artists and industry leaders from around the world. Our goal is to share knowledge, connect our community, and elevate the artistry of our craft. Hi, I'm Jessie Chu.
Hello, I am Quinn Nguyen, and we are the founders of the Paper Florist Collective.
Hi guys, today we've got Jasmine Sing of Merremade on with us. And
Hello.
Sorry. She's just so excited to be with us today, as we are with her.
Yes, it's not her first rodeo with us.
Yeah. You guys would have heard us chat with her actually back in episode 15, where we actually learned a little bit about Jasmine.
Yep.
And
it was just last year. Can you believe
that was last year.
I feel like
so much has happened. I know.
So much.
And Jasmine, as you know, was raised in Singapore, but she's now in South Korea and has a paper flower business there where she sells paper flowers and runs workshops and tutorials and online courses. And so we thought it would be perfect to have Jasmine back on with us during this time because she just recently started to offer in-person workshops again, which over on this side of the ocean, we haven't had any opportunity to even think about that. I mean, Quinn and I planning one and then we had to cancel it. And so we thought it'd be really interesting hearing from a paper florist who is now able to or has decided to offer in-person workshops and talk a little bit about where she's coming from in that, why she decided to offer it, and just get some perspective in terms of how you might go about conducting a in-person workshop during COVID-19. So, Jasmine.
Yeah. Hello again.
Hello.
I'm back.
We missed you so much.
I know.
Me too.
I mean, it's so nice to see you.
Same here.
I mean, after, obviously, we're both following you on Instagram, but after reading and following your posts and stories, we realized that you were offering in-person workshops. And both Quinn and I were like, wow, that's awesome.
So nice.
That's awesome. We would love to do that. What kind of pushed you to restart offering in-person workshops? I mean, after several months of that not ever being an option.
In general, for South Korea, this pandemic started way earlier than you guys. So we actually started probably mid to end of February. So I had to cancel or postpone all of my classes. Because at that time, it was pretty serious and everyone was really in panic and there is nothing much that anybody can do. And we do not know how bad it is going to be. But we saw the numbers rising really, really fast. And if you were following the numbers, Korea was the top in the list at that time. And really, it was like within days and it just shoot up right
So
to the top. Yes, so everyone were told to stay home, try not to go out and start working from home. So I had no choice but to stop all my classes. Well, I was actually in Singapore before I came back to Korea when the pandemic started. So when I was in Singapore, I was like kind of worried. So I stayed in Singapore, which I thought was safer at that time. But Singapore started rising as well. So I thought, okay, probably I should go back to Korea. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to go back. Yeah. So I came back and the numbers went up even higher. So So I had to stop all my offline classes. And I told all my students that it is probably safer to stay home and we could do it online if you want to. But they wanted an in-person class, which I agreed to and I thought it's better to see to have the classes face to face as well. So we decided that okay, we should postpone it to a later date, but we have no idea when it's gonna come. So I told them it's an open date. So if you want to refund, you may feel free to do so. I can refund you the fee. You can come and join later. But fortunately, everyone said, oh no, it's okay. I'm sure we can get over this soon and we'll be able to start the class again. Yeah, so everyone was kind of positive in a way because it shows how much they want to learn.
Yes, that's great. Yeah. What a great teacher you are too.
Oh, thanks. I try my best to be good. I'm still learning. Well, because I think it's my responsibility to keep them safe as well. Because I just came back from Singapore. I do not know what I get from traveling so far away, So I had to do self-quarantine for 2 weeks in Korea. And then, but fortunately, there wasn't any lockdown or anything. We were still able to step out of the house, but I chose not to. So I really stayed home for the whole of 1 month. I just stepped out of the house. I'm that good.
No, that's a very strong will.
Yeah. Grocery? Did you have grocery delivered to your house?
Yeah, we can do so. It's the delivery system here is really good and they do it 24 hours.
Wow.
So yeah, and I guess we have lots of supplies as well. Fortunately, I hear that many of the countries are running out of toiletries, food, supplies. Masks as well. But we have lots of them here, which I'm lucky. I felt relieved. But my family back in Singapore, they were running out of all those supplies as well.
Yeah.
And I couldn't send it back to them. It prohibited.
I mean, you didn't have a formal lockdown. So there was no government initiative that said, okay, lockdown is in, if you go out of the house, you're going to be fined. What about gatherings? Were there any rules with respect to how many people could gather together? Or was it a recommendation kind of thing?
There was no strict measurements at that point of time, but they announced that we shouldn't be in crowded areas, and we should just stay home. And companies were told to start practicing working from home. Yeah, so there was no particular numbers or anything, but you just need to keep it small. I know things were very different back at home in Singapore, where they were in lockdown for, I think, a month. They are in phase 2 right now, so they couldn't go out of the house. So my family were like, oh, I could understand how you felt for that month now. Yeah. But thankfully, everything in Korea is in good control. The medical system here is pretty efficient as well. So we had lots of medical help and assistance. Yeah. So for the reason or how I decided to start my classes, it's actually not up to me. It was because I was really skeptical. So because I felt that I had the most responsibility.
Of course.
Yeah. So it was actually my students who were pushing me to start the classes. We were looking at drastic change in the numbers as well. So the infected cases were down to less than 20 at that point of time. So that's when I thought, okay, let's do this. So, but before that, I gave them some house rules. So I made sure that I wanted them to sanitize their hands before they come into the classroom, place where I hold my workshop. So before they actually come in, I sanitize the entire space, the chairs, the furniture, the doorknob, all my tools. Yeah, that for me is really important because I need to keep the space clean for myself and them. So before they come in, they have to sanitize their hands first. And of course, I check if they were sick or have they been to any hospitals. If they do, then I wouldn't recommend them to come for the class because it's also for the other students as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And of course, masks. We have lots of masks here. So I make sure that they put on the mask the whole time. And in Korea, everyone is advised to put on a mask at all times when you're out. It is very common to see everyone having masks. And it's uncommon and to see someone not wearing mask and actually they will be stared at, to be honest. Yeah, it's kind of different from wherever you are right now. And I know it's difficult. And I'm really sorry that I went ahead of you guys first. I mean, honestly, because we started first, you see. I'm sure things will get better in time to come. Just stay calm and follow what. Maybe if you can try to stay home, you just stay home. Yeah. Just like I did, I stayed for a month. Yeah. So basically that's how I started. I resumed my classes.
Right.
For your workshop, did you find a location nearby or how did you find your space to hold these workshops?
I found a space in the middle of Seoul where there is a design university at that area. For the entire area, there's full of workshop spaces or art academies, classes in that area. So I thought that it might be good for me, myself, to be there as well. And it's a convenient location.
That location was permitted you to restart your in-person workshops?
Yes, pretty much most of the places were opened at that time.
Right.
Yeah, so we could use the space, but I know that they didn't allow a big crowd. So we were restricted to a smaller group of people. So for my classes as well, I don't have more than 3 participants. Yeah. So I think keeping it small will be safe, like
For everybody.
for everyone. Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
Do you require them to sit like further apart? Do you set up chairs a certain way so that they're kind of primed to sit apart?
Oh yes, definitely they have to. Well, not just for me.
Yeah.
Sometimes when the students come in, they will move slightly away from each other.
That's even better. Wow.
Yeah, you can
Precaution.
see their body moving.
This is too close.
Yeah, you can see them slightly moving away from each other.
That's really good that they're watching out for each other.
Yeah. I think it's a little sensitive here in South Korea. Everyone watch out for each other and they make sure that they are safe themselves, you see.
Right.
So during classes, when I set up the room, I will put their materials and tools like at least 1.2 meters apart. I understand that it's a different story at the US.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
The US, they're recommending 6 feet apart. And so, and we're only at, I believe right now in the state of Washington, well, in King County. And it's so interesting, the state of Washington, every county is in different phases. And so we are at 25% capacity for inside the restaurants. But if you have outdoor seating, you can have it outside, but you have to have all the tables spaced 6 feet or more apart, and everything is sanitized. And then what a lot of the restaurants have been doing, interesting enough, is what they'll do is they'll have a card on the table to tell you if this table has been sanitized or not. Let you know if you can sit at that table. And turnover, it's been really interesting to see how people are coping with this and trying to make it work. And I am a little bit skeptical for restaurants to open right now, just because we're still, we just opened up to phase 2 this weekend. And
it's Father's Day weekend too.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm sure there were tons of gatherings.
Yeah.
Oh, we're at, we have, our rule is it's 2 meters apart. That's a recommended spacing.
Really
and they say like practically like the further apart you are, the better. And they say like, so they gave us kind of vague instructions in terms of how to interact once we were allowed to start having 10 people in a social bubble. And so the rule was, yes, you're allowed to have 10, but then, they would tell us, but here are some of the rules you need to follow within the 10. So really the 10 isn't like 10 people sitting together in one space next to each other. It's like 10 people spaced out, and they were saying like 2 meters apart. And somebody was saying, one of the experts was saying, the health experts was saying, a good way to think of it is when you talk to that person, you should feel a little bit uncomfortable talking to them in terms of how loud you have to talk. So if you think about it, it's like, it literally is you sitting like with someone else, like across the room. Like that's what they're recommending, because the more you talk towards them, the more likely you're going to maybe spread something. But so they have rules. And then they have rules within rules of what they could recommend. So like, I'm thinking about like workshops, like Jasmine, it would be literally 3 people in a normal size, let's say 12 by 12 size room, because you literally cannot fit anyone else there and do the math with, it being 2 meters or even a meter and a half. And right now we don't have restaurants open yet in our greater Toronto area, because that's the high density area. So not until I think Wednesday when they're going to start letting them roll out with, I think, outdoor seating first, which makes sense because it's nice outside and it's more open air. But I mean, I think about myself and I'm like, I don't know. I don't think I'm that comfortable going out to restaurants anytime soon. So that's tough. And so like thinking about workshops, I can't even imagine like the paper place, which is where I normally do workshops, where we normally have 8 people and, we're pretty tight on a table. I don't imagine that we'll be able to do those types of workshops anytime soon. It's not just like the rules, it's also people's psychology, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Like you said, it's like you weren't sure if you were comfortable, but your students were totally comfortable. It's like different people have different expectations.
But you know what? Before I actually decided to say okay to them, I was really worried, and I kept thinking, oh no, what should I do? I mean, I know they are eager to learn and they really wanted it so badly to start so badly. So I was like, okay, maybe I should just go ahead. So when I was in the class, I literally forgot about everything.
Which is wonderful.
Yeah.
That's
so
just like wonderful.
it's like, oh, I'm so glad that I was able to start doing it.
Yeah.
And working, like talking to people face to face. I mean, we had our mask on. We just we could see our eyes, but I mean that's enough, right?
Yeah, it's enough. Yeah. It's
eye contact, right?
Yeah, it's so different having physical presence versus virtual. It's completely different.
Yeah.
Talk about therapeutic, like really therapeutic now. You know, before it was therapeutic, but now it really is more than just sharing a love. It's like having that physical contact, being able to engage with people and look at people's eyes. Like, I think that's something you've been missing for the last 3 months, right?
Yeah, that's right.
We've been in lockdown 17 weeks now in the US.
We're similar. Yeah.
So crazy.
I'm so sorry to hear that. I wish you guys were here. I'm sorry.
I know. Me too. Honestly, like to be like with other people who do what we do. Like,
it's definitely on my list to come visit you, Jasmine.
Please do.
Yes, me too. Don't worry.
Yes.
Asia, we will one day come over, and we would love to host something in Korea. That would be so awesome.
Please make it happen.
We will. We'll make it happen.
We will. Don't worry, we will.
Okay, let's be happier. I mean, everyone is like, I understand the situation is like bad and everyone is kind of down. But, you know, I feel that it's part of me that I always wanted to make people happy. So whenever I have like a video call with someone, I mean, it's really different from where I am. Right? So I try to like cheer them up. I mean, even though there's not much that I can do, I mean, just looking at my face is a game changer.
So, Jasmine, while you were in lockdown for like a whole month staying at home, what did you do to occupy your time and to hone your paper flower skills?
I was home for the whole month, but I didn't resume my classes like after 2 months. So basically I was home for 2 months. So I was it's a blessing in disguise because I got to spend time to do what I had procrastinated. So there were so many things on the list that I kept pushing it away. I started Merremade like a year ago, and fortunately, it had been picking up pretty good, and I had like students enrolling in my class. Because of that, I did not have much time to do what I really wanted to do. So I've always wanted to try on new flowers, try on the new materials that I have. I bought tons of materials and tools, but I've never had a chance. I've never explored into new flowers for a long time. So during that lockdown for myself, I exposed myself into all these things that I wanted to do. And also, I've also prepared a guidebook for my students. So that is some sort of achievement for myself. Because I really wanted to do something different for the courses in Korea. It's a little different because most of them are looking into full master course instead of a one-day hobby class, you know what I mean? For this type of courses, it's like they will stay with me for either the whole day over the next few days or they come back weekly. So it's a full curriculum. So because of that, I feel I always wanted to prepare like a book for them, you know, to help them during the class and after the class. So when they go back home, they can flip it over again and revise, think about what they did before, and they can jot down any notes that they wanted in the book itself. It's something that I always wanted to do, and I finally got it done.
I love that. And do you feel like that was a game changer that made you different from the other instructors that are teaching in your city?
Yes, definitely. There are a few paper flower instructors in this city, or rather in the entire of Korea. So not too many, but just a few of them. And what my students told me were that when they were trying to find someone to learn from, they obviously compared, right? So they were surprised. First of all, I'm a foreigner. Yeah. Secondly, I provide guidebooks, and my curriculum is a little different from what they have as well. Because in Korea, it's pretty structured. Like they do things in a structured manner. But for me, it's more like free form kind of experience. Yeah, I do have my curriculum as well. But during class, I don't teach just one method. I try to share different types of ways to make a particular flower or a particular part of the flower. They were happy. I mean, like for myself, I am happy that they are learning a lot.
Yeah.
And after the courses, some of them actually did try to take up some online courses as well. I mean, in Korea. So they were like coming back to me and say, it's really different, like the method and of teaching as well. So, I mean, obviously, they would compare. There's good and there's some bad. I hope not too much. Yeah. So, yeah, but it's good for me because I learn from my students what are the not so good part of me. So I try to improve on that. And I always ask feedback from my students as well.
How do you do the feedback? Do you do it by surveys? Do you ask them directly? Or what's the best way to get a response from your student to make you improve on your technique?
During the classes, while they are making the flowers, I talk a lot. Yeah. So I try to ask them in the class face to face because I wanted to see their reaction, like what they learned and how am I different from someone else. And after the class, I will send them a text, and it's not like a structured survey. It's more like a very impromptu reply. So I'll just ask them a few questions like, how do you feel about the class and my teaching methods and the skills that you've learned? And I also do ask them about the room, like, okay, especially for this time of the pandemic, I will ask them if you felt comfortable in the space and did you feel a little worried that someone else, a stranger, is sitting next to you?
Right.
Is there anything else that I can do to improve? I would ask them all this. So hearing from them would be the best answers for me.
I guess the good thing is you can get direct answers quite quickly and hopefully honest ones too, because they are literally talking directly with you, texting. It's very informal, like you said, very relaxed setting. It's just, literally practically like a friend talking to you about how to improve or what they liked or what they don't. I think that's very thoughtful of you, actually, to reach out to your students like that one by one.
Because right now the classes are smaller. The group, there's maximum 3 of them, right? So it makes us even closer in a way. Because like it's just a few of us and we can talk about anything, right?
Yes.
And we will be stuck in the room probably for the whole day, other than lunch, right? So, there's so much to talk about. And I'm thankful that so far, I hope that they were honest with me. I think it's good to get feedbacks from them so you can actually improve. Right?
Definitely. I love that your workshops is all day. So do you check in early in the morning and then you break for lunch and then you work through the whole day? How many flowers is that?
I do have a structured curriculum, and once they finish the whole course, they will actually be able to get certificate. So this certificate course actually consists of 10 flowers and different type of foliages. So within this couple of days, they will learn all these flowers with me.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So I actually touch on the fundamentals of paper flowers, the types of materials, the tools, and whatnot that they need for the class. And then I'll touch on the basic technique first. So from the very beginning, it's just really basic stuff, and then slowly going into more technical and more difficult types of flowers. So, I mean, it's a good progress for them as well. And it's easier for me to teach in a way because you can see them, not just a flower, but them as my students, like blossom.
Yes, definitely.
Really. Yeah, so initially, when they first come, they were like, wow, I'm so excited. I want to join the class. But I started with like the boring stuff, right? The fundamentals. So you can see them, okay, yeah. From being very excited to a little down and okay. But when they start touching on how to make the flowers, their expressions change again.
I bet. Do you find your students are of have a certain experience level?
Yes, of course. Those who come for my regular classes, I call them, are pretty much those who wants to teach. So for this particular course, after you complete the whole course, you need to take a test.
Nice.
Yes. Yeah. So
a written test,
you need to take a test.
Is it a
written test? So during the class, I don't touch them. I don't teach them 100%. So I have level 1 and level 2. So during level 1, I guide them almost 100%. But for level 2, I will try not to touch them. I will look at them and observe.
More hands off.
Yes. So I make them do it themselves. And if I see something a little weird, I will advise them, probably you can try this way or that way.
Yeah.
But during the whole of all this hands-on, it's more like a hands-on test, right? But after the whole thing, after they completed all the flowers and all the foliages, I make them do a written test because I need to know if they truly 100% understood what I said. For example, the type of papers available in the market, whether what type of techniques you have learned and stuff. Because I myself, I'm a foreigner, right? But I teach my classes in Korean to the Korean. Korean is not my first language. So I am also very scared that they may not understand me. So during my class, I keep asking them, do you understand me? Do you understand? Yeah, I make sure that they do, because sometimes I see these question marks on their faces.
Yes.
Yeah, so I will be like, do you understand? I would say 99% do.
That's great.
Yeah. So the test is actually for me to make sure to see if they understand me during the class.
Right.
The workshop in Korea versus in Western world, completely different. Western world's definitely a lot shorter. They only teach one type of flower. They don't do any written tests. I feel like
it's more like a hobby.
Yeah.
Quote unquote. You know how in Korea and a lot of the Asian countries, it is a masterclass is a masterclass. At the end of it, you should have acquired certain skills and be tested, obviously, because it's standardized testing everywhere.
Yes.
And then get some sort of recognition. Actually, Jasmine, you were talking about a certificate of completion.
Yes.
Was that something that you felt was required because you were in Korea? Is that something common?
Honestly, in the beginning, I thought it was kind of useless. Because, I mean, it's just a piece of paper, right?
Yeah.
And I thought at that time, it's not recognized by anybody. But then I went into my research and I found out that all these certificates that were issued by the instructors, they were actually registered certificates. So I do have an association in Korea and it's called International Crafts Design Association. And it is actually a registered association, a private association that is approved by the Korean government. I actually prepared all the documents that were needed and I have to submit it to the government. And it took a good 6 months to process. Yeah, and got approval, thankfully.
It's a long time. 6 months.
Yes, it wasn't easy. I had to submit things like the test questions. Yes, so basically I had to submit things like my curriculum, what I teach, what do the students get during the class, what will they learn, what do they benefit from the class, and after the class, what can they do with your course, and of course the test questions as well.
Yeah.
So basically, this purpose of this establishment, I would call, is to promote the development of craftworks in Korea. That is why they have this type of association in Korea. So basically for me, once I establish my association, I'm able to issue registered certifications for my students. So during the class, the student has to go through all the flowers and they have to complete all the flowers and foliages that I have in my curriculum that I submitted to the government, and they have to take the test and they have to pass the test, otherwise they wouldn't be able to get the certificate. So I have to make sure that they are capable of teaching my full curriculum that I've taught them. So this certificate is actually an acknowledgement for them. So once they get the certificate, they are able to teach what I've taught them. And basically, if you were to think about it, it's just like someone buying your design. Yeah, that's more like it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but we do it in a more formal way here in Korea.
So interesting.
It's interesting. But I mean, in the beginning, I didn't know. And I thought like, oh, why would I want to do that?
Yeah.
You know, and anybody who is capable of teaching is able to apply for this, you see.
Right.
But of course, not everyone will be approved to get it.
Right.
I mean,
right.
I am really lucky.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I suppose there's a sense of legitimacy there, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
To have a overseeing regulatory body in a way, regulatory, quote unquote, where you submit yourself and say, you know, regulate my courses or, you know, in order to get that legitimacy and then people who actually are looking around for courses who care about having certification, they would likely choose your course over someone else who doesn't have that kind of legitimacy. So in a way, I guess it actually could be a good thing. I was just, once I actually learned about the Korean government's like initiative, I was like, I wonder if they have it here, and obviously not. But I thought it was cool because, like Quinn said, it's easy here to do one flower courses because it's very much seen as a craft, very much seen as a hobby. Whereas in Asia, a lot of times with these master classes, the expectation is different. It's fun, but they're really literally there to learn from you and to then do something big with it, like something meaningful, something more than just, oh, it's a fun night out with my mother or my girlfriend. So I think it's kind of interesting because if you think about it, in the States now with the new master classes, trademarked masterclass, that's what they're doing. They're essentially like adapting to that kind of idea of something that is like a 10-week or something that is very comprehensive, that once you complete this masterclass, you're like a teacher kind of thing, right? I think it's really cool. I mean, Quinn, we can think about something like that because, you know, nobody's done that yet. And yeah, exactly. And hello, like that is the trend, right?
Yeah.
So very interesting though, how in a way it is translatable here and how like a lot of ideas that are coming out of Korea and other Asian countries are easily adaptable here, like COVID, obviously, you know, in terms of how to ease back into the offline learning, and then also other ways of constructing a program or extensive workshop or, you know, those kind of things. That's really interesting.
Jasmine, is the industry in Korea for paper florists, is it looked down like a hobby like in the United States, or is it more elevated because of the certificate?
Oh, is it looked down upon in the United States?
It's not considered
like a hobby, right?
Hobby? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll just share something interesting that I learned. Well, in Korea, there are a number of housewives. These housewives, yeah, really,
a number. No, there are a lot of numbers.
a lot of zeros there. Okay, for them, unlike Singapore, you know, we would share the burden and go out and work and stuff. But here in Korea, a lot of them are stay-home moms. So they literally just take care of their kids since they were young, they were baby. So, but all these kids, they grow up, right? So after they grow up, they themselves, they have no skills. They haven't been in the society, the working society for so long. Obviously, they cannot get any job, right? So what they do is they open up small studios in their own cities or in their own neighborhood, right, where they stay. So all these small studios, they use it as a craft room. So they use the studios to teach any crafts that they know.
Interesting.
So that's how it got started. So in Korea, all this, like, they are always seeking to learn new crafts so that they can teach. So they can teach other moms as well.
Right.
Yeah, so their friends, they have lots of friends, right? So they send their kids to school and then they have nothing to do. Like, hey, come on, let's go learn something, you know?
Yeah.
So they will gather. Yeah, so they will go gather at their studio and they learn something together.
Yeah.
So because of that, I have a number of moms coming from all over the country just to learn this craft. So I was so surprised because some of them may take like 4 to 5 hours. I mean, it's not as big as it is in the US, but to me, coming from a small, tiny country, Singapore, 4 to 5 hours all the way just to come for my class, I'm really thankful and surprised.
Yeah.
So I feel that there is not much exposure of this craft at the moment, and many people do not know paper flowers yet. So I feel that it is an increasing interest, here in Korea, but it is not something that they look down upon, because I have inquiries and I have students who are florists who come to me and say that, these are so beautiful, they can actually replace the real flowers.
Yeah.
And the real flowers, they are seasonal, and because a lot of them were imported as well, so they're expensive.
Yeah.
So all these florists, they come here, they want to learn how to make it, and they want to sell them with their fresh flowers.
I love that. Yay.
Yeah, I love it
know.
too, seriously. Yeah. So I think that it is really good opportunity for me to share what these flowers can do. Not just for weddings, but for like events, decorations, or table settings, things like that.
Yeah.
So I share all this with my florist students. So I hope they will pick up the skills fast enough, because I haven't taught in a long time, right? I only just started teaching officially in Korea like end of last year. I'm pretty confident that this will pick up in Korea and in Asia as well.
How interesting.
So you can do that too. Find all those moms.
Yes, there are pockets of places where a lot of moms or wealthier women who have a lot of money to spend on parties or on weddings, or on, just like you said, like on opening up a shop to offer workshops, studio space. But that's really interesting where your students are coming from in terms of the market. It's not necessarily what I would have expected, but that says a lot about where we could also find our students too, right? Yeah,
Exactly.
so cool.
Yeah, but for me, I guess I still need some time to study my students. Like I feel that there is a large group that are interested in this course. Oh, like for example, my online class, my online course, there's been so many of them learning it, and they have been like posting pictures on the community page. I was so impressed by them, because like just looking at the screen and following step by step, they could do it by themselves, you see.
Yeah.
I'm impressed. Yeah, really. I feel that there is a big market here.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, hopefully Quinn and I will one day, very soon, head over to Korea and bring a whole bunch of people over as well.
Yes.
And meet your students, and you can show us around, and
of course
we can learn some things from you guys about, how to run a workshop, and, just share ideas as well. Because we only know one way of doing something over here, based on what we've seen, what other people do. But there's so, like everything you've said, there can be other ways of offering services. Offering workshops.
And you know what? I really want to thank you ladies, because I actually implemented some of what I learned from your workshop, the master class.
Yay!
And I brought it here. So they were impressed as well. Like they were thinking, I never thought that I would see this in Korea, And then they were saying things like, is it because you're a foreigner, you do things differently?
I guess it's kind of like taking good things from different cultures or different experiences you've seen, and kind of incorporate it into your own and kind of present it that way. And it's you, right? It's I'm not saying, I wouldn't call you a foreigner, but like you said, you're not from Korea. You're not bound by certain cultural expectations, right? And you can kind of incorporate other ideas and they won't be totally shocked by it. They won't be like, well, you're my neighbor. Like, why are you doing this?
Yeah. It's really interesting. I've been thinking about that quite a bit, and it's so freeing being a paper florist, because our industry is so new. And there is so many hobbyists, so many crafters coming into this new industry, taking their technique from what they learn and implementing it into paper flowers. If you look at paper flower technique, there is so many sewing technique in there that is quite interesting and so beneficial. And there's from art mediums, from watercolors, from the technique that you're doing with your orchids where you're using massing liquid. It's so incredible that we're able to I know, right? We can pull in from so many different knowledge and make our industry even better. That's one thing I love about being a paper florist is we look outside the box, because we're not bound by these rules that's been enforced through decades of being in the industry.
Well, there are no traditions.
Yeah, no tradition, because we're making it right now.
Yes, exactly. We're making it right now. We're actually literally changing it every day by implementing new techniques or using different experiences and incorporating into our own. Like, it is pretty cool.
And you know, I was telling you that all the moms, they learned different types of crafts, you know, and I learned so much from them as well.
I'm sure you guys were chatting away.
Yeah. I keep asking, how do you do that? How do you do that? I mean, it's interesting because I can use those techniques that they use for other crafts into mine.
Yeah. It's just like the idea, like, even if it doesn't work directly, it's the idea that, oh, they did this with that. Is there something similar that I can do with, you know, like it opens up your mind really to everything. I think that's actually, it's more important to look like outside our industry than inside, because inside we already kind of know what's going on. Outside, like, is where Quinn was saying, like, outside of the box, you bring it in and it literally changes your industry day by day.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Jasmine. It, as always, been a extreme pleasure talking to you, catching up and finding out how you're growing in South Korea.
Thank you. The pleasure is mine.
It's amazing.
It's so good to see you both again.
Oh my gosh. It's great to see you. Can you believe it? It's been more than a year.
Yeah.
Since the masterclass. And it felt like a lifetime ago. And look where you are now. Like,
I know.
You know.
So proud of you.
Yeah, we
You should catch me next year.
Yeah, yes,
we will, definitely. We might see you in person.
It's a yearly event.
Yeah, we can travel again, hopefully.
And we shall see where I will be.
Yes.
Yep. If you guys want to listen more and understand what Jasmine does in South Korea, listen to our episode number 15 in Paper Talk. And we would love for you guys to give us a shout out and spread the news that we are interviewing people from all over the world. And one call that we want to make is, if you guys are interested in submitting a blog post to thepaperflorist.org, reach out to us at info@thepaperflorist.org. We would love to start sharing different voices from all over the world.
Thank you, Jasmine.
Thank
you.
you.
It was really nice seeing you again.
See you next year.
Yeah.